saying the other songs.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 475. It's Monday, February 25th, 2013, 9 p.m. Pacific Time. Internet talk radio for your imagination. Mike Matthews broadcasting from the last place on Earth, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, California. Today we hear from Madame Rootabega, Valentino, Bison Bentley. Plus we bring you part 2 of Into an Interview with Tim Perry of the group Ages and Ages.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
And thanks for listening to this show that is completely free and thus does not require any of your wages.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Did you hear about the remains of an ancient continent discovered under the Indian Ocean has been found? A geologist at the University of Oslo. Wow. I have never been to that campus. It's the ancient microcontinent of Mauritius, which you can't get to by bus. It existed between 2,000 and 85 million years ago.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Underneath the Indian Ocean, they found it by a grain-by-grain analysis. Whoa.
Mike's
That's complicated.
Daily
People are smart.
Podcast.
They revealed zircons.
Yeah!
Tiny crystals of zirconium silicate that are resistant to erosion. They would have crystallized some 660 million years ago. The geologists proposed that volcanic eruptions on the bottom of the sea brought shards of the ancient continent to the Earth's surface, which eroded in the sea and washed up on the more geologically recent island. Of course, they said that. Look who else. Look who's just walked in now. Hello, Michael Matthews. This is Madame Rootabega. And I have been to Mauritius. You have? Yes, it was a really partying place. I went there with Tennille. From Captain and Tennille? Of course. Does she like to party? Michael Matthews, she wrote a song about muskrat love. Of course she likes to party. Interestingly enough, a quick check has just found that Captain and Tennille are still married. They got married in 1975, and they're still together. Isn't that nice? Wow. Wow, that's wonderful. I guess love will keep us together. I like that song way better than that. Do That To Me one more time. Oh, me too. Look who else just walked in.
Hello, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant.
And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that? So, what do you guys think about Madame Rootabega and Tennille party together back in the early days before she got married?
Yeah, that's really wonderful. You know, kind of makes me a little bit sick day.
This jealousy?
Okay, maybe a little bit.
Well, Valentino, that happened a long time ago. I'm sure you don't have to worry about anything with Madame Rootabega now.
Who said anything about me being worried? I was just playing coy day.
Mike, Valentino likes to play coy. Do you know that? Yeah, I know that because he just said that. Yeah, he likes to play with the koi fish. They're really good at playing fetch. Wonderful. Well, if you are amazed by this amazing discovery underneath the Indian Ocean, or if you think Captain and Tennille maybe at one time actually performed on that said lost continent, you can email me, mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. Also email me there if you'd like to be a guest on the show or if you'd like to sponsor the show, mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. Your comments we read on the section emails for me mail. Singular. And we also have this fascinating thing called mikesdailypodcast.com. Go there to check out the wonderful website, which features our wonderful blog and the daily podcast picture. Plus, it's where you can go to subscribe to our wonderful show in iTunes. And if you subscribe to us there and comment on the show and rate this show there, more people find out about us, and that's great. Yay. You can also find out where to find us on Facebook, Yelp, Twitter, and YouTube, and where to find us on the internet radio stations KNJO Radio and XRQK Los Angeles. All those, including past interviews, songs that I have written and performed that are ones that I'm sure Captain and Tennille would be quite impressed by. Maybe. And other things you can find at mikesdailypodcast.com.
Into an interview.
We're talking with Tim Perry of the group Ages and Ages. And Tim, how did that name come about?
Well, we were called Ages, actually. And that name came about, like many things, just sort of out of the ether, just kind of whatever. entered my brain, and that was that. So we were called Ages for probably about the first year we were a band, and then for various reasons we changed it to Ages and Ages. But yeah, there's really no like super cool, like interesting story about it other than just sort of like the idea of timelessness in music and not really sort of, I don't really have a whole lot of interest trying to make something that's like super of the day or whatever. I think more in terms of just sort of I don't know. I mean, the thing that makes music cool this year is the same thing that's going to make it cool 10 years from now or 10 years ago. So I guess that's partially what the name stems from.
And I noticed that the spelling of the name is like with no spaces, Ages and Ages. Like a word. One word almost.
Yeah. God, why did we do that? I really don't know, and I don't remember. A lot of these things just kind of happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This like a lot of times lyrics just get written, and sometimes people say, well, why did you, where did this come from? And a lot of times I know, and a lot of times I really don't.
And then I wanted to ask you about your 12-seat passenger van.
Well, we have a big band, so we have a big van. It doesn't have 12 seats. We removed a bunch of them. Well, hang on. Let's see. How many would it have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There would be technically 10 people could fit in that van.
Oh, okay.
But we fit, obviously 7 people, 6 or 7 people require, a bunch of instruments and luggage and sleeping bags and pillows and water bottles.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of that space is just taken up with other people's crap, especially, anywhere from like a week or more into a tour. It's like a giant mobile garbage can, pretty much. People want it.
Oh, I want to come along. Sounds like fun.
Yeah. No, there was one 5-week tour that was just like the tour of sickness. It was like traveling sick den. We just kept getting, and not just like cold, but like really like ear infection and sinus infection, and like somebody got strep, another person even got pink eye. I mean, just like it was unbelievable. And there wasn't a time where like one of us wasn't seriously ill. But
wow, that's enough. That's enough to make you want to go solo.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things that are enough to make you want to go solo. You find, yeah.
Is there
being in a band with 7 different people and being, always 1 foot away from all of them at all times is tough for everybody sometimes, but for the most part, it's all right.
Is there a favorite road food?
We do Whole Foods a lot. This day and age, the 2 things that have helped touring vastly, I think, for bands have been the smartphone and the Whole Foods franchise. Not to plug those guys, but I mean, it's just having the option of not fast food is really cool, and having the ability to navigate that sort of thing on your phone and figure out, there's this option is coming up within the next few miles, and it's just going to be a few turns off the road kind of a thing, as opposed to just like, waiting until the next Pizza Hut or just whatever, which is just not cool.
Yeah. Tim Perry, I think that your travels on the road with this large band has taught you, has in fact informed you of what the secret of life is. I think you could write a book about it.
I'm glad you think that.
How to get
I don't know if you're right, but
how to get along with so many people in a compact space that's kind of like the world, right? We're all kind of smushed together.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's funny if one were to fill out like a resume for their experience of being in a band, but not mention the part where they play music, I doubt that most people would be able to guess what that person's, or that the person's profession is a musician, because of just so much. I mean, it's traveling, lifting of heavy equipment, silk screening shirts, project managing and, like accounting and record keeping and merchandise sales and all these things that, you would think have nothing to do with music. But that's, complicated beast.
Tell me about your recording process. And I hear a lot of times you use the one microphone and you have all the harmonies feeding into the one microphone. Is this true? You do something like that?
What we did is we recorded the instruments first, and then, usually in one take, and then we, by that I mean like all in the same take. It might take 2 or 3 takes for us to get it right or whatever, but and then we went over and blasted the instrumentation over the monitors, so there were no headphones, and we all stood around one mic and sang the parts live.
Oh, wow. Okay. But
so there have been a few times where people have needed isolated tracks or whatever, and it doesn't really work for us because we don't, if we were to isolate our vocals, then you would hear in the background the music coming through the monitors.
Yeah, that's a little problem that happens in the recording studio with the...
Well, in our case, it happened. It didn't have to be that way. We wanted the bleed. We wanted sort of the live energy, and we wanted the rapidity of the process we chose. We didn't want to think too much about each and every little nuance. I think a lot of things get lost in that, so we just sort of went for the raw. We also bounced everything down to a cassette tape.
What?
So that was kind of funny. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You did? It bounced?
Yeah.
I did that back in the 80s because I didn't have anything. I was working at a radio station and I had some songs. I'm like, nobody's here. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to record something. And all I had was I'd record onto a reel-to-reel, and then I'd play back the reel-to-reel and then record my vocals over the music that I had done onto the cassette.
Right.
And then go from the cassette back to the reel-to-reel, go boing, 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 boing. And by the time I was done, it sounded like a little bit of music and a lot of...
a little hiss. Yeah, sometimes that hiss can be kind of cool, though, or that sound of air, I guess, or the space that happens, the loudness is a cool thing. I think when it's a scene, it gets boring.
The what gets boring?
I think when things are too pristine, it gets boring.
Oh, too pristine, yeah.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you how you got those harmonies. How do you arrange those amazing harmonies that we hear on your songs? It's just sort of something in my head. And then, a lot of times, I will demo those songs out and kind of pass out parts to people, or a lot of times the band will just sort of figure it out. But honestly, a lot of that, especially to be able to sing it live, it requires just a lot of practice. And what practice, not necessarily there's so much that practice gives you, but for one, it just you learn everybody's sort of vocal nuances, because everybody's different and everybody's got certain ranges where they're strong and certain ranges where they're a little softer or less loud, and just every little thing. And just, even right down to just certain parts, certain people got to get, back up a few inches from the mic, and then other people got to get closer. And it's just, the more you play together, the more you just sort of hone in on the delicacies, of these harmonies. So, it just requires loving what you do and actually enjoying the process. Otherwise, it's not going to work out so well. Tim Perry, you sound like you are a mastermind in the recording studio.
I wouldn't. I definitely am probably the idea man of the band for the most part. But obviously, that everybody has their input, and which is very important, and not just input, but energy and emotion. And it's a very, delivery is very, very important, and I think that's what sort of defines the difference between good and bad as far as band concerned, music and all that stuff. And so, no, I mean, it's definitely everybody